Tacoma, welcome back to your third grade TV classroom. Today is Friday, November 13th, and I'm Mrs. Oslin. As always, let's take a moment to check in with our zone. Stop and think about what emotion you're feeling. Think about your I message. You'll remember your I message sounds like I feel because And also think about how strongly you're feeling your emotion. Take some think time. I'm going to practice sharing my I message with Rafa. Rafa, I'm in the blue zone today because I'm feeling tired because Mitch kept me up last night. You'll remember Mitch is my dog. He didn't puke this time, but he was walking around on our hardwood floors going clickety-clackety, clickety-clackety at 3 a.m. and it woke me up. So I'm tired, but I'm good to go. Now, you take a moment to share your iMessage with your learning buddy, someone in the room with you, or with me on the screen. It's important for us to check in with our zone and our emotion before we get started learning, because if you're feeling really strongly on the feelings thermometer, your brain and your body are not going to be able to learn. No matter how entertaining and engaging I am, if your brain is not ready, it's just not going to happen. So that's why it's so important that we check in before every lesson. We've also been talking about adding feelings to our feelings tree and being really descriptive when we describe our feeling. So instead of just saying, I feel tired, I could say, I feel exhausted, because exhausted means really, really tired. And that way, when I share my iMessage, the people around me know Mrs. Oslin isn't just tired, she's really, really tired. So we're gonna wanna either give her some space or check in and see if she needs something. We're also going to stop and think about when we are feeling a feeling at a 4 or a 5, we're feeling it really strongly and we're not able to share our iMessage, we need to go through our stop and stay cool steps so that we can stop ourselves before we say or do something that we'll regret. You'll remember the stop and stay cool steps are: first, you say, I feel like I'm losing control. Second, you stop. Third, you give yourself a chilly hug. That looks like wrapping your arms around yourself and squeezing. Fourth, you practice breathing. You breathe in for 5 seconds and then you blow out for 5 seconds. Let's practice doing that together today. Then hopefully you are cool enough to think about your iMessage and share your iMessage with someone. We've been talking about what to do when you have a conflict with someone. And we've talked about how the best solution is a solution that's a win-win solution. One in which both people get some of what they want and both people feel okay. And it's important to have a win-win solution so that we can keep our friendships. When we do have a conflict with someone, we are learning the steps on the peace path. The first step on the peace path is to tell the problem. This is after we've gone through our stop and stay cool steps, when we're sharing our iMessage with someone. I feel because And we learned the importance of using say it back, which is where I share my iMessage, and then the person I'm in a conflict with says back to me what I'm feeling. And that sounds like, so you feel because And that's so I know that the person knows what I'm feeling and understood me. And so the other person really is clear about how I'm feeling. And then we switch. They share their iMessage and I say it back. Then we brainstorm solutions. That means we both think about what would be the best win-win solution to solve our conflict. That could be share, take turns, apologize, get help if we're having a hard time thinking of a win-win solution. And you'll remember that taking a break and walking away is always an option. Once both people have had an opportunity to think about a possible win-win solution, they come back together and decide together which solution they're going to try. And this is when they solve the problem. Today is a new reading and writing unit for us. So I hope you had the opportunity to get your new reading and writing packet from your teacher. If you haven't done that, please contact them as soon as possible because we're going to need it going forward. I don't even have it yet today. So I'm going to be doing a lot of work in our learning or writing notebook. So what you'll need, if you have your ELA packet, get it. You'll also need your learning buddy, a pencil, and your writing notebook. You gather those materials and then come back to me ready to go. All right, ready to go? Okay, our new reading and writing units are very much connected, and I'm so excited that we get to learn together how reading and writing are connected. And today I want to teach you how writers include the features of biographies, that's a type of book, to teach about their topic and how to use these to learn. So we're going to read several biographies. The word biography actually comes from two Greek words, bio meaning life and graphy meaning write. So these are books about people's lives, and we're going to use the features of biographies, books about people's lives, to learn all about these people. And then you are going to use features as a writer to teach someone about someone else. So there are two books that we are going to use during this unit. The first is a picture book of Cesar Chavez, and it's by David A. Adler, Michael S. Adler, and then the pictures are by Marie Olafsdotter. And we're not going to read this book today, but this is one book that we will read. The book that we're going to start today is If a Bus Could Talk, The Story of Rosa Parks. It's by Faith Ringgold. And before we even get started reading the book, I want you to take some think time. And in your ELA packet, if you have it, you're going to find Appendix 2, Biographies, and it has this T-chart on it. And we're going to think about what we know or think we know about biographies. And then at the end or throughout this unit, we're going to continue to add to this chart, adding what we learned about biographies. So take some think time. What do you think you already know about biographies? Now, I want you to share what you think you already know about biographies with your learning buddy. Rafa, I think I know that biographies are about real people, and I think that biographies tell the story of their life. Now, if you have your ELA packet, you're going to be on this T-chart. If you don't, you're going to be writing in your writer's notebook, which is what I'm going to model because I don't have the packet yet. So now that you've thought and shared what you think you know, take some time to write what you think you know about biographies. Now you'll remember that strong readers and writers keep in mind what they think they know about a topic. And today we're going to keep in mind what we think we know about biographies. And as we read, If a Bus Could Talk, we're going to think about, is our thinking going to change at all about what we think we know about biographies? And that's when we learn, is when we're thinking about what we think we know and we change our thinking based on new information. So today and Tuesday, we're going to read this book, If a Bus Could Talk. And it raises some issues that can be really hard for people to think and talk about. But issues of racism are really important for us to be having conversations about. So I'm going to encourage you, if you're feeling uncomfortable at all during this book, talk to a trusted adult and really check in with how you're feeling and what you think you know about a topic as we read all about Rosa Parks. After we read this book, we're going to get into our ELA packet, and this appendix is thinking about our reading. And we're going to write what we learned about, and it says subject, and that would be biographies or Rosa Parks, because we're learning about two different things here in this text. And then it has 4 bullet points, and your job is to go into this graphic organizer or in your notebook if you don't have the graphic organizer yet, and you're going to think about what you know about biographies and think about what you think you know about Rosa Parks. And you're going to fill this in thinking about the features that the author included in this biography. And then you're going to come up with one word to describe this person, which would be Rosa Parks. So be thinking about her as a person and her character traits, which means how does she act and behave. If a Bus Could Talk, The Story of Rosa Parks by Faith Ringgold. This story is dedicated to Rosa Parks and all of the known and unknown men, women, and children of the civil rights movement who, through their singular acts of courage, made it possible for Black people to vote, take a seat on a bus, in a movie theater, or at a lunch counter, and get a hotel room just like any other American citizen. This morning, a strange-looking bus pulled up at my stop. It didn't look anything like my usual bus, but it was on time and I didn't want to be late for school, so I decided to take it. The door opened and a voice called out, "Step on up, young lady." I got on thinking, I'll ask the driver which bus this is. Now, I'm doing some thinking as a reader, and one of the things that I thought I knew about biographies is that they're nonfiction text. But I'm looking at this, the picture, and the story. This doesn't look like a traditional nonfiction text. So I'm going to have to be doing some thinking about what I think I know about biographies as I continue to read. But the bus driver was not in his seat. I paid my fare and looked around for him. There were lots of passengers, but their faces weren't familiar. I started to ask one of them if I was on the right bus, but before I could, the door closed and the bus pulled away from the curb with no one in the driver's seat. The sudden start sent me reeling down the aisle, and I landed in a seat holding on for dear life. None of the other passengers seemed to notice anything was wrong. "Stop this bus and let me off!" I shouted. "I want a bus with a driver." "Please don't take that seat, Marcy," someone said. "How do you know my name?" "Which one of you is speaking?" I asked, looking around. But the passengers were talking amongst themselves, reading, or just staring out the window. "This is a special bus, Marcy, and you are sitting in a special seat reserved for a very special person." "Amen, amen," chorused the passengers. "What bus is this?" I asked. "This used to be the Cleveland Avenue bus, but now it's the Rosa Parks bus. She is the patron saint of the civil rights movement. One day a year, we reserve that seat in her name. Take another seat, and I will tell you all about her." Now, the bus seemed to be coming from the bus itself. Now the voice seemed to be coming from the bus itself. I could hardly believe it. I was on a talking bus. Trembling with fear, but curious as I could be, I took a seat across the aisle and settled down to hear this remarkable story. Rosa McCauley, the first child of James and Leona McCauley, was born on February 4, 1913 in Tuskegee, Alabama. When Rosa was 2 years old, her father, a skilled carpenter and house builder, left the family and went up north looking for work. Her mother took Rosa and Sylvester, her baby brother, to live on their grandfather's small farm in Pine Level, Alabama. They worked hard there, raising chickens, calves, vegetables, nuts, and fruit. Rosa helped her grandfather clear weeds and tend the crops. The family also picked cotton in neighboring fields. So now I'm noticing that our author has started to teach us about Rosa Parks. And I was curious about it being a nonfiction text and how the bus could be talking. And I think what's happening is that our author has decided to tell a true story in a literary way. So telling the story with the bus talking to get my attention and to make it entertaining. So now I'm learning that this is a nonfiction book and it is going to be all about the life of Rosa Parks. And I'm noticing it starts at the very beginning of her life. That's one feature of a biography. Now let's keep reading as we learn more about Rosa Parks and think about what kind of person is she is. How would you describe her to someone? From Rosa's earliest childhood, she could remember scary nights when the Ku Klux Klan, a band of hateful white men dressed in white hooded robes, would ride past their farm shooting off rifles to frighten the black people. Rosa knew that the Klan had burned churches and beaten, tortured, and lynched many black people. There were times when Rosa's family slept in their clothes so they could run if the Klan decided to burn their house down in the middle of the night. Now, this is where I was saying that issues of racism and violence against anyone can be uncomfortable. So I'm going to do a quick zones check-in because I can feel my heart is beating fast. I can feel that my face is getting hot and I'm getting very uncomfortable. So I'm going to take some deep breaths. And I'm going to recognize that even though I'm uncomfortable, it's important for me to keep reading and learning so that I can be a better member of my community. Despite those fearful conditions, Rosa's grandfather was an outspoken old man who made it known that he had a loaded shotgun and was not afraid to use it to defend his home and family. Grandfather Sylvester instilled a sense of pride in his children and grandchildren, and in Rosa most of all. Rosa was a nice little girl who loved praise, but she hated the disrespectful way whites often treated black people. One day, a white boy threatened to punch her, and Rosa picked up a rock and threatened to hit him back if he did. When her grandmother heard about this, she was very afraid because she knew something like that might cause Rosa to be lynched one day. So let's stop and think about what kind of person Rosa is. She was threatened with violence, but she stood up for herself. We call that courage. Let's keep reading and see if there are any other features of biography that we can learn about. What else we're going to learn about Rosa to see if we can decide what kind of person or character traits she has. When Rosa was 6 years old, she went to school. Her school had 50 to 60 children in one room and only one teacher. In Pine Level, Alabama, school for black children only went up to the 6th grade, and it was open only 5 months out of the year, while school for white children went through the 12th grade and was open for 9 months. And the white children could take a bus to school, while the black children often had to walk a long way. However, Rosa's mother, Leona, had plans for Rosa's education. Leona was a teacher in a one-room school in the village of Spring Hill. To teach there, she had to travel a long distance and then be away from her children all week. But she saved up so Rosa could further her education. When Rosa was 11, she went to Miss White's School for Girls in Montgomery, Alabama. Several years later, Rosa went on to high school at Alabama State Teachers College for Negroes. She had to drop out of school when first her grandmother and then her mother became ill. Rosa's mother got well, but her grandmother later died. After Leona recovered, Rosa went back to school and got her high school diploma. But it would be a few years before Rosa could find a job using her typing and writing skills. So she took in sewing and did alterations at the Montgomery Fair department store. Now, I'm thinking about how Rosa and Black people were not set up for success in education, but she was determined. She found a way, and she graduated high school, and that was because she had the support of her mother, who knew how to help her. So I would say another character trait of Rosa is determined. She's going to finish something that she starts. One day on the way home from work, the bus driver told Rosa to get off and enter at the back of the bus after she had paid her fare. Then he drove off, leaving her in the street. This was common practice then. It is no wonder that Black people would often walk a mile or more to and from work rather than ride the segregated buses. The buses were the worst form of segregation because Black people could only sit in the back of the bus. If there were no whites in the middle section, Blacks could sit there, but only if no white people were left standing. Black people couldn't sit in the same row with whites, even if there was an empty seat in that row. It was during those times I got to know and love Rosa Parks, said the talking bus. She was a great lady with quiet dignity despite all the cruelty she faced because of the color of her skin. So another word that we could use to define or name Rosa's character traits is dignified. But then something good happened. Rosa married a very nice man named Raymond Parks. Parks, as she called him, was a Black man like grandfather Sylvester. He demanded to be treated with respect. Parks was light-skinned and had grown up in an all-white neighborhood. Although he looked like a white person, he was not allowed to go to the white school, and the nearest Black school was too far away. He had been taught to read and write by his mother. Despite the fact that he had very little formal education, Parks was well-spoken and well-read on the important issues affecting his people. It was Parks who encouraged Rosa to return to school and graduate. Raymond Parks, a barber by trade, had been a longtime member of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Mrs. Parks soon became a member too. In no time, she was appointed secretary of the Montgomery branch and could use her education to help her people. She also served as youth leader and organized a citywide youth conference. Parks worked hard to free 4 young men called the Scottsboro Boys who were jailed for a crime they did not commit. Parks was also an activist for voter registration, and he and Rosa held regular meetings of the Voters League in their home. That was how Rosa finally registered to vote after being turned down 3 times before. There's that character trait of determination again that we're seeing in Rosa Parks in registering to vote even after she was told no 3 times. One fateful day, December 1st, 1955, Mrs. Parks took this very bus home from work. The bus driver, whose name was James Blake, told Mrs. Parks to get up and give her seat to a white man. There were other Black people sitting in the same section, and all of them would have to get up so that the white man could sit down. Rosa knew that the segregation laws were unfair, and right then and there, she decided to do something about it. She told the driver she would not give up her seat. This was the same bus driver who had wronged her before. Now, Rosa's being told that she needs to stand so that a white man can have her seat, and she's saying no. Think about what character trait would you use to describe Rosa? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Rafa, I'm thinking Rosa's very brave because I don't know if I would have the courage to do this. Let's keep reading. When Mrs. Parks refused to give up her seat, Blake called the police and had her arrested and taken to jail for breaking the segregation laws. It is for this singular act of courage that one day a year, Mrs. Parks' seat has been reserved, said the talking bus, and why we don't want to see Blake driving this bus ever again. Amen, amen, chorused the passengers. How long did Mrs. Parks have to stay in jail? I asked. Not long, Marcy. When Mr. E.D. Nixon, the head of the Montgomery branch of the NAACP, heard of Mrs. Parks' arrest, he paid her bail and she was released. He asked her to help with a boycott to change the segregation laws. Rosa was happy to be a part of the citywide effort to end segregated buses. Mr. E.D. Nixon also asked the Women's Political Council and the town's black ministers to help organize and promote what came to be known as the world over as the Montgomery bus boycott. Now, we're going to stop there, and on Tuesday, we will continue reading more about Rosa Parks. Now, as you go off to independently read and write today, I want you to complete this appendix in your ELA packet or in your writer's notebook if you don't have your ELA packet. The biography title is If This Bus Could Talk, or If a Bus Could Talk. And what I learned about Rosa Parks is the subject. There are 4 bullet points there, and I want you to list 4 things that you learned about Rosa Parks, or biographies in general, and think of one word that would describe this person. And this is going to be your independent work today. You're also going to, during your independent reading, find a biography, find a book about someone, and complete another chart thinking about that other person that you learned about. Today we learned how writers include features of biographies to teach about their topic and how we can use them to learn. So one feature that we learned about is that they often include elements of story to be more engaging, and they tell a story from Rosa's, the beginning of her life, to where we left off. So that's one feature or 2 features of biographies. You can continue using your When Meaning Breaks Down anchor chart to continue to help you keep track of when you're able to understand and remember what you're reading. And also, if you're reading and you find yourself getting distracted, go back to this How to Stay Focused document to help you refocus. As always, continue to add to your reading log, being in communication with your teacher. You can send this in today. Today's Friday, the last day of the week, so that they know what you've been working on. Now it's time for your 5-minute break. You're going to gather your materials for math. What you will need are your learning buddy, your whiteboard and marker, and your counters. Thank you so much for doing some really important thinking and reading and feeling with me today. Have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Bye.
Hi, third graders. Welcome back from your break. As you notice, I'm still here at my house. So I'm so grateful for technology. It means that even though I need to be here caring for my son, I can still come to you and help you with math. And I think that that's pretty amazing. So today I am very grateful for technology. All right. Are you ready? It's Fact Fun Friday, and we're going to do some of our facts. So I want you to think about what you know about your friends of 10, and then how that relates to 100, and how that can help you with a problem like this. 200 minus 40. Think about that number line. If you were to hop back 40, where would you be? Now, what I do in my head is I think about 100. And I know that 40 and 60 make 100. So I just add 100 to that number because I have another group of 100, right? So 200 minus 40 is 160. Isn't that cool? Oh, I don't have my highlighter. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, dear friends, it's going to be one of those days. That's okay. We'll just roll with it, won't we? Yep, because we're flexible. We know how to be flexible, third graders. So, and it went ahead, didn't it? Oh boy, it's 160. Now, 200 minus 140. Okay, so think about it. Back here, put your hands up. We had 40 and 160 and 200, right? Our whole and our part was 40, and then we had 160. Okay, keep that. Hold your hands, keep it. Now, this isn't 40 anymore. Or this one isn't 40 anymore. This one's 140. So what's this one? It's still 200. How many did we toss over to the 40? 100. It was 160. And then I tossed over 100. So what's left? 100. No, not 100. Mrs. Wally. Back up. Let's do that again. We had 40 and 160. We tossed 100 over. Now this is 140. What's left here? 60. There we go. Sometimes my brain reverses things. So I've gotten really good at checking my thinking and making sure that it makes sense. And that did not make sense the first time I said it, did it? Nope, it did not. Okay. Now we had still 200. We had 140 and 60. Right? Now we have 160. So we tossed how many over to make 140, 160? 20. So this is no longer 60. What is it? Yeah, it's 40. I love thinking about these problems as part whole. It makes solving them so much easier. Okay, this one's totally different. So what are you going to do to figure this one out? Go ahead, use a strategy. I know a strategy I'm going to use for this one. Do you want to hear my strategy? I'm going to do the open number line. I'm going to start at 160. I'm going to count to 210. So I know 160 to 200 is 40, and 200 to 210 is 10, and 40 plus 10 is 50. So my answer is 50. Did you see how quick and fluent I was able to do that? You might have said, well, I know 21 minus 16 is 5, so 210 minus 160 is 50. Now, hang on. 210 minus 160 equals 50. So we've got 160 and we've got 50. Okay, now let's see what happens. We take 3 from the 50 and toss it over to the 160. So how many are left in this hand? It's not 50 anymore. It's 47. 47. And I just remembered, I forgot to start my stopwatch. So I'm going to start that right now so we don't go too long. That would not be good. Okay, stopwatch, reset, start. Okay. Today, we are learning. Make myself smaller. Today, we are learning to evaluate. It's the order of the fact. I have a typo on there. Woo-wee. We are learning to evaluate if the order of the factors has any change on the product in multiplication problems. That means my last slide is going to be wrong too, but that's okay, right? Yeah, we all make mistakes. Clearly, I was not being careful enough when I was editing. That's okay though. We're just going to move past it because we can be flexible. Use counters to model and find each product. Go ahead, build or draw 6 times 2. I'm going to draw. You can build or draw. Remember, 6 groups of 2. Okay, you ready? I'm going to show you mine. There it is. Okay. Now, model or draw 2 groups of 6. Okay. 6 groups of 2, 2 groups of 6. 6 groups of 2, 2 groups of 6. What is it? It's 12. Doesn't matter which way it is, it's 12. But is my picture different? It is. This one has 2 rows of 6, and this one has 6 rows of 2. Those are 2 very different pictures, right? Yeah. But the product, which is the answer to a multiplication problem, is still 12. Why is that? Why does the product not change when it's 6 times 2 or 2 times 6? Turn into your learning buddy. Why does it not change? Yeah, because I don't add or take any away. I just move the picture on its side, right? Okay. Let's go ahead and read this problem. Chad reads books at the library each week for 6 weeks. Okay? He reads 3 books each week. Mia reads books at the library each week for 3 weeks. She reads 6 books each week. Who reads more at the library, Chad or Mia? So this is a 2-part problem. What are we trying to figure out? We need to figure out how many books Chad reads, and we need to figure out how many books Mia reads. It's actually a 3-part problem. And then we have to decide who reads more. So I want you to go ahead and solve, and I'm going to solve, and then we're going to look at the way some other friends solved this problem. I'm not going to solve because I have stuff on the next slide. So go ahead. I'm going to give you 1 minute to solve or 2 minutes to solve. Now, we don't have think time music because Mr. Kevin is not here at my home. So I'm going to hum a little tune while you work. You ready? Keep going. You almost done? All right. You ready? Let's look how they solved it. Oh, I'm in the way. You can use equal groups to help you understand the problem. Look at what they modeled here. What do you see with Chad? Yeah, you see a group of 3. You see 6 of those groups of 3, right? This stands for each week, and the number of books in each week that Chad read. Then you have Mia. What do you see for Mia's? 3 groups, 3 weeks, 6 books in each group. You could also use arrays to help you understand the problem. This has 3 books per week with 6 weeks. This has 6 books with 3 weeks. What do you notice about these 2 arrays? I'm noticing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. And in my head, I'm thinking, what would happen if I took that and went, whoop? I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. And I have 1, 2, 3 rows. What if I went, whoop? I'd have 1, 2, 3 columns. What multiplication equation did you write to find the number of books Chad reads? Yeah, 6 groups of 3 equals, and what was the answer? 18. Okay. What multiplication equation could you write to find the number of books Mia reads? She had 3 weeks, 6 books each week. What did that equal? 18. Wait a minute. Oh, look, the factors are the same. They're just in the opposite order. I talked about that yesterday, remember? It doesn't matter which way the factors are, the product stays the same. Because we don't add any or take any away, the numbers are still the same. The picture just looks different. Who reads more books? Neither. They read the same. I want you to explain to your learning buddy how you know that Chad and Mia read the same number of books without finding the product in each multiplication equation. So if we didn't count them up and figure out how many books it was, how do you know it's the same? What's the math rule that tells you that? Great. Yeah, that when you multiply, the order of the factors does not change the product. Just like when you add, the order of the addends does not change the sum, right? Right. Your teacher tells you that 8 times 9 equals 72. How? You explain how you know what 9 times 8 equals. Well, if 8 times 9 is 72, then yeah, 9 times 8 is 72. How do you know? Yeah, because of multiplication, flipping the factors doesn't change the product. Nice job, friends. Let's do another problem. Josie has 5 cups with 4 tokens in each cup. Ian has 4 cups with 5 tokens in each cup. Draw a model to show that Josie and Ian have the same number of tokens. Show your work. Okay, so I'm going to draw and you're going to draw. We need to have a line down the middle. And you need to label one side Josie and one side Ian. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to work and hum our little tune, and you're going to work, and then we're going to compare our thinking. Okay. Here's my model. 5 groups of 4, 4 groups of 5. If we turn it like this, all of a sudden I have 4 groups of 5 and 5 groups of 4. 5 groups of 4 and 4 groups of 5. 4 groups of 5 and 5 groups of 4. That is the products stay the same. The factors just switch places. It's like you're turning the rectangle on its side, right? Yeah. Is that what you drew? Or did you draw something different that expressed how they have the same number of tokens? How many tokens do they each have? What is 5 groups of 4? 5, 10, 15, 20. Nice job, third graders. All right. Ashish and Gita, I think that's how you say it, each have a rock collection with the same number of rocks. Ashish has 6 shelves in his room to display all his rocks. He puts 8 rocks on each shelf. Gita has 8 shelves to display all her rocks. She puts an equal number of rocks on each shelf. How many rocks does Gita put on each shelf? Show your work. So, if Ashish has 6 shelves, let's draw that. Draw 6 shelves. You can do an array. That's going to be 6 rows of 8. I wish you could see me drawing, friends, but you're drawing and I'm drawing, and then we will share our work together because, whoops, I drew 9 instead of 8. I thought that was happening. Because I don't have another camera to be able to show you my thinking down here like I do in our TV classroom. And actually, it's not a bad thing because then you have to do some thinking on your own without seeing my work first. And that's a good thing. Makes you a strong mathematician. Okay. So 6 shelves with 8 rocks on each shelf. Now remember, it said that they have the same number of rocks. Gita has 8 shelves. What could you do with this picture to figure out how many Gita puts on each shelf? Yeah. Ooh. Actually, I'm going to go this way. Now there's 8 shelves. So how many rocks on each shelf? 6. Very good. We could do that because of what we call the associative property. That's where it doesn't matter which order they're in, right? Doesn't matter. Okay. They had how many? What is 6 times 8? What's 6 times 4? 24. It's 24 plus 24. 48. What's 6 times 8? 48. Very good. Sarah knows that 5 times 8 equals 40. What other math fact does this help Sarah know? Very good. See? All right, friends. Nice job. Your assignment today is page 191 and 192, working on this same concept. Today, did we draw models for both expressions? Yes. Did we find the product for both expressions? Yes. Did we analyze if the order changed anything? Yes. Was there a pattern we noticed? Yeah. But it doesn't matter what order the factors are in, the product stays the same. Excellent job, third graders. So now it's time for our affirmation. And today is one that's related just to math. You, friends, are strong mathematicians. You've done an amazing job so far this year. So I want you to remind yourself of that. Even when math feels difficult, you can do it, and you are a strong mathematician because everyone is capable of that. So I'm going to go first, and then you're going to go. I am a strong mathematician. Your turn. Excellent job, third graders. We will see you tomorrow. Actually, no. Tomorrow is Saturday. We will see you on Monday. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.